Cards are a very important feature in Dandy's world, but they're often overlooked because the buffs they give might not sound very exciting on paper, but they can make or break your run. In this video, I'll explain how to pick the best cards, when to choose one over another, and why. This video will also act as a tier list, because some cards are way better and you don't want to leave them on the table, or in the elevator to be exact. But first, what are cards and how do they work? Cards are a special mechanic in Dandy's world. On every odd-numbered floor, you get 3 random cards to pick from. Players vote, and the one with the most votes is chosen and will either provide some kind of permanent buff, item, or heal everyone. There are 21 cards total, but only 14 are unique. Many players don't know this, but it's very important to realize that the cards are not infinite. Once you go through all 21 cards, there are no more. You won't get any new ones after that, and you will use all of them by the 43rd floor. As said, there are 14 unique cards. The other 7 are named differently, but share the same icon and give the same effect. For example, Decency adds 5 seconds to the elevator timer at the end of the round, and it has another version called Etiquette. So if you pick both of them, the timer becomes 40 seconds instead of the default 30. Let's start with Decency right away. Is it worth picking? I think having more time to leave the floor can be beneficial in some cases, but in most cases, as long as you are not playing solo, there are other cards that will help you more. Your team doesn't need to be perfect, but as long as they know what they're doing, you should all be able to leave without any issues. For that reason, I would put it into the C tier. However, if you are playing solo, it's a little more useful because you will have more time to maneuver in case Twisted cuts your way. Decency gave us a great start in the middle of the tier list, but let's move a little more strategically, and now look at all the cards I would give an F tier, meaning they are not worth picking if you have the choice. The first I would put in an F tier is Frugal. Frugal can only be taken once per run and gives a 10% discount on all items in Dandy's shop. This might sound good at first, but it really isn't. Dandy doesn't even sell that many items worth buying, so you shouldn't really run out of tapes anyway. And a 10% discount isn't much. Let's look at a few examples. You usually want to buy things like a bandage, health kit, or maybe a pop or bottle of pop. But even for the most expensive item from the list, the health kit, the discount is barely noticeable. Health kit costs 100 tapes, so Frugal only saves you 10 tapes. That's basically one machine completed, or what you get just by surviving one floor. So it doesn't help much, and you shouldn't struggle with tapes anyway. For the same reason, I would also put the Spare Change card in F tier. Spare Change can be picked up twice, the other is called Penny Pincher, and it gives every Toon 45 tapes. Some players say it's useful if you have Sprout on the team. For those who don't know, Sprout has an ability that lets him heal other Toons at the cost of 100 tapes. But even then, I still don't think it's worth it. Tapes aren't usually a problem, and this card only gives you 45% of what Sprout needs for one heal. It could be fine early on, but most other cards are better picks. One more card deserves an F, and that's the Lost and Found, which also comes in a second version as Blind Grab. This card, when picked, gives everyone one random item if they have an empty inventory slot. But the huge downside of this card, which makes it basically never worth picking, is that it chooses randomly from all the available items while rarity still applies. This means that you're much more likely to get something useless. Because not only is it a common rarity, but also because there are more common and uncommon items in the game than items of higher rarities. And since there are already tons of these low rarity items lying around on the floors, it's really not worth the gamble if you have any other choice. Now it's time to visit the C tier again and add more cards next to Decency. A card that definitely deserves a C at best is Spark Plug, which increases the light radius for all Toons during a blackout, meaning you should see more. Once again, it sounds great on paper, but in reality, the effect is barely noticeable, and it doesn't make blackouts any less annoying. I don't have a clip that would show a direct comparison with and without Spark Plug, but take a look at these two photos. They're supposed to be different. If I zoom in, you can see a small change in the distance, but nothing that would actually help much. According to the wiki, the card should give you only about a 2.5% increased radius. Next up, and this one might be a bit controversial, the healing cards. First aid and medical attention should also go in C tier, maybe C+ at best. It's not that they're bad cards, they can be pretty useful at times, but the problem is that there are very few situations you would need them. First, you can't control when the game gives them to you. So for them to be good, you have to get them exactly when your team really needs healing. And it's not worth picking if only one player is hurt, because don't forget that you can't use the card multiple times. And second, there's usually a healer on the team. And even if there isn't, bandages are pretty easy to find, so there are other ways to heal, where you actually choose when to heal. So the healing cards are very situational, which knocks the rating down to C tier, but they definitely have their place and time to be used. I'd also put piping tape into tier C. Piping tape lowers the chance of running into ichor leaks. Ichor leaks were added fairly recently in a big update at the end of August. They're those small puddles of ichor you can find on the floor. Normally, the chance of seeing them goes up by 2% every floor. With this card, it only goes up by 1.5%. Piping tape also decreases the maximum chance from 30% to 25%. I personally don't find ichor leaks that hard to avoid. You can see in this clip how easily I dodged one, even though it spawned very closely between two obstacles. It helps a little, but there are better cards to pick. The electrician card, on the other hand, is the first card that deserves a spot in B tier. It works almost the same as the previous card, but this one lowers the chance of blackouts. The increase per floor goes from 2% down to 1.5%, and the max chance also drops from 30% to 25%. Let's put that into simpler numbers. If we compare the maximum chance of 30% versus 25%, that's roughly only one fewer blackout every 20 floors, but over those 20 floors, you will statistically still hit about 5 blackouts. Once again, it's definitely helpful, and blackouts are super annoying, but it's not strong enough to go higher than B tier. What I'd also place in B tier is Time's Up. This card is also a newer one, and if you take it, it sends you to Dial's floor, which is the first challenge floor in the game. And if you manage to survive that, you will get a huge bonus of plus 50 stamina. The bonus itself is easily S plus tier. However, it's not that simple, as the floor is really tough. No matter which floor you pick this card on, you will have to complete 25 machines, and there will be at least 4 Twisteds, at least 3 common ones, plus Twisted Dial, who is a challenge all by himself. If you are playing with new or inexperienced players, I would say skip it altogether. You probably won't reach a high enough floor to be forced to pick it anyway. But if you're with a good team, picking this card early can be a great move. For one, all of you will likely still be alive on that floor, but you will also have a lower chance of getting blackout or ichor leaks, and there will be fewer Twisteds, although it's still a minimum of 4. And you will get the stamina buff earlier, which will really help you. Now we have 5 cards left, which are moving us to the excellent cards territory. All of these are really good, and I don't want to give any definitive ranking because which one is best depends on your team and what you need at that moment. But here's how I'd think about them. Suppression would get the lowest priority. Suppression reduces the amount of speed Twisteds gain in panic mode by 5%. This means that after machines are completed, Twisteds will only get a 20% movement speed bonus instead of 25%. This can really help you outrun most Twisteds easily, especially in lobbies with randoms. To provide an example, let's look at Shelly. She has 3 stars in movement speed, meaning she sprints at 25 speed. Twisted Shelly also has 25 speed during panic mode, but with suppression, it drops to 24. And that little extra distance you can create with this has saved me many times. Choosing between well-paced, tech-savvy, and rehearsal depends the most on which tunes you play, because they're all very strong. Rehearsal gives a big bonus if your team highly relies on abilities, as it reduces all ability cooldowns by 5 seconds, or 10 seconds if you also pick the other version, which is called Practice. Well-paced grants you 10 extra stamina. In the end, you can increase your total stamina by 20, since this card also has 2 variants, with the other called Endurance. This makes it very useful, and those 20 additional stamina can get you out of a lot of trouble, especially if you play tunes with lower stamina, like Yada or Gigi, who both have only 100 stamina by default. And lastly, I really like Tech Savvy, and I usually pick it most of the time when it appears. Tech Savvy decreases the time it takes to fill up a machine by 5 seconds. The less time you spend on a floor, the less chance you have to mess up. And saving seconds during a blackout or when you have to deal with a hard Twisted like Pebble is totally worth it. And over time, the time adds up pretty substantially. The last card I haven't mentioned yet is Avaricious. That is because it's simply the best card in the game. It also comes in 2 variants, with the other called Covetous, and both increase the chance of rarer items appearing on floors and in Dandy's shop. I would always pick this card over anything else, because all your issues in-game can be fixed with better items. Rarer items mean more medkits and more bandages. It also means more stamina or faster extraction speeds. It's simply amazing. And that's it for the cards. Let me know in the comments which card you absolutely swear by, or which one you think is totally overrated, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it.